Hello, welcome back to the ProAm Predictions. I am Paul O'Didi, amateur side, and on the pro side we have Bellator bantamweight contender Brian the Pikeman Moore. How are you doing, Brian?
What's up, Paul? Whole ball as well. I'm looking
Very
forward
good.
to breaking down these two cards. Well,
Yeah,
there's one
exciting.
big card.
We have some fights back at least anyway.
Yes, hell yeah.
And this
Big
week,
start 2021.
exactly, this week we are going to predict the main card from Holloway Kattar and briefly look ahead to the midweek card headlined by Chiesa and Magny. We will also give our bets of the week and predictions on the fight, on all fights. Hit that like and subscribe button. And without further ado, we better get into some fights. I suppose we'll start the main event on Saturday night. Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar.
Do you want to start or me?
Look, I'll just give you a quick rundown anyway for those listening. Holloway, look, he's 1-3 in his last four, but it's not fair to look at that record and say that he's on a slide. You have the last Volkanovski performance, and most people believe that he won that fight, including myself. And then you had the Poirier loss, which was on short notice up at lightweight. So you could argue that he's 2-1 in featherweight, and of course there was a massive 13-fight win streak or 12-fight win streak before that. So I mean, he's lost one at featherweight, arguably. I know he's technically lost two, but you could argue he's lost one at featherweight in his last 18 fights. So it's definitely not a man that's on the slide. Now, there are some miles on the clock, obviously, and he's coming up against a tough Bostonian in Calvin Kattar, who's on a 2-fight win streak. Impressive wins over Dan Ige and Jeremy Stevens. So, I mean, look, I want to shoot you here. You've competed against some of the top guys in the world at featherweight. Someone like Max Holloway, who's long been considered one of the top featherweights in the world at that weight class. I want to get your opinion on, do you think we're still seeing the best version of Max Holloway?
You see, I was guilty of what I think many people are going to make the same mistake. I was guilty of it during the week of thinking, okay, we have Calvin Kattar, who's an upcoming knockout artist, versus Max Holloway, who, you know, like you said, is 1-3 in the last few fights. And the reason why we're looking at it and we're seeing how Holloway's after losing is because of this big 13-fight win streak. We're not used to seeing him lose, but what I see is I see Holloway using this experience and that fire under his ass now from losing these couple of fights.
Yeah.
And you look at the losses, like you explained. Yes, one was to Dustin Poirier, who's top in the lightweight division, but also I scored to Max Holloway beating Volkanovski the last time out.
Yeah.
So, and that he's losing to the champ. You know what I mean? He's a former champ who lost to the champ. It's neck and neck.
In razor close fights as well, yeah.
Absolutely. So I was guilty of thinking that, yeah, I think Kattar is the upcoming young, hungrier guy who's going to take on Max Holloway. But A, Max Holloway is very young still.
B, 3 years younger than Kattar. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we can be guilty of thinking that he's been in the game. He's been in the game for so long, but maybe thinking that he's gone past it. But also, like, you look at B, he looks massively impressive in his last few fights, albeit they were losses. But I think still he outpointed Volkanovski. So I think Max Holloway takes this fight. If you were to ask me, today's Thursday, if you asked me Monday, I thought Calvin Kattar, but I've now settled my mind that Max Holloway uses that experience, uses that championship 5 rounds that he's worked so hard in getting his conditioning up to that level. And I think he outpoints Kattar. Kattar, there's no doubt, has more power in his hands, but Holloway is going to use that volume, going to use that. I think he has a more diverse skill set, and I think he'll put all that in play to beat Kattar on Saturday night.
Yeah, as well with Kattar. Look, Kattar obviously has looked damn impressive of late. But what I would say is there's 2 losses there on his record to Zabit, Magomedov and Carnero as well. And both of those guys are very similar in the sense that they use movement a lot to get in and out and to kind of outstrike and outpoint their opponents as opposed to devastating strikes and devastating knockout power. That's Max Holloway's style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Holloway, being a wily vet, will understand that as well. His footwork is phenomenal. He doesn't have the flashy footwork that we see the likes of maybe Zabit showing, and or the likes of Dillashaw or whatever, but his footwork is very crafty. What I think the difference will be is I think that Kattar loves his hands. He'll want to get close and put hands on Holloway. As long as Holloway doesn't get drawn into this and starts trading with Kattar, I think he'll see a clearer path to victory, using plenty of leg kicks, maybe feinting the odd takedown, and using his vast array of strikes, rather than Kattar, who I think is just going to predominantly box in this fight.
Yeah, 100%. And if we look at the common opponents there that they have, there's 3 common opponents that are notable. You have Ricardo Lamas, who Max Holloway fought to a decision. If we remember, that's when he was pointy at the ground and they had that war.
Yeah.
Calvin Kattar KO'd him.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Stevens, similarly, Max Holloway fought to a decision, and Calvin Kattar KO'd him. And the only other one is Andre Fili, who we all know is tough and hard to put away. Fili was subbed by Max Holloway and fought to a decision with Kattar. The only reason I point to this is I think Kattar obviously is the more powerful striker, and if it comes to a stand and bang war, I believe he's more likely to get a finish than Max Holloway. But I think Holloway is more than likely going to use the game plan and the blueprint set there by Zabit and Carneiro to just outpoint Kattar, and I see him take you over after 2 rounds.
Yeah, I can. The only concern I have, Paul, is we mentioned miles on the clock. I'm talking about the strikes that Max Holloway absorbs. There was a lot of talk online about him being the fighter who's absorbed the most shots in the UFC, and it doesn't matter what age you are. We can all take a certain amount of shots, but that dies after time.
Yeah,
we hit our limit, and I'm wondering where Holloway's limit is. I still think he has plenty of good fights left in him, and I think we're going to see him go past Calvin Kattar and challenge for a belt again. But either way, fans are going to win with this one, because we're going to see a great fight. We're going to see either Max Holloway, that re-emergence, where I think many people deserve he should be at the top of the tier, or we're going to see a Calvin Kattar star rise even further.
Yeah.
But either way, we're going to see a phenomenal fight. If I'd put my money on it, I'd be Max Holloway by decision.
Max Holloway by decision. I'm of the same opinion. The one thing I would like, obviously it's a very close one to call, but the one thing I would say is that this could very well be an early contender for fight of the year, on the opening card of the year. It's just the style of the fights. Holloway likes to go the distance with people, and I see him take you over after the midway through to the 3rd round, even possibly the start of the 3rd round, and just start to pour it on Kattar.
I think 4th and 5th. If he does start to edge it, it'll be 4th and 5th. We've seen Kattar's conditioning is quite good. Against, we mentioned Zabit, he only found his second wind as such in the 3rd round. So I don't think his conditioning will be suspect. But I think Max Holloway just has another gear in 4th and 5th rounds. We've seen that against Aldo. We've seen him many times with him, and he has that experience of fighting for 25 minutes much more often than Kattar. So it's going to be a good one, but I think it'll be a close contest right up to the 4th and 5th, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm the same. The one thing I would say is I don't see Holloway getting the finish. I think Kattar is just a little bit too tough. He likes to stick in there, and I would see it going the distance. So yeah, like you said, I have Holloway by decision.
Yeah, me too.
Perfect. We'll move on to the co-main event of the evening, and you have Carlos Conded versus Matt Brown. Now, I've said this before many a times. This is a fight that, if you go back to 2014 and 15, I was buzzing for this fight, and when it was being banded about and both were calling for each other. In 2021, I'm not quite as excited for it. Obviously, look, I mean, the style is perfect, and both guys, I'd rather see Carlos Condit fight Matt Brown than anyone else, and I'd rather see Matt Brown fight Carlos Condit than anyone else. But
yeah, well said.
It's not one that I'm overly excited for at the same time. What's your opinion on both of these guys kind of in the stage of the career that they're at?
I love both of these guys, and I'm just glad to see them still there. And you never know. Some guys get these resurgences in their career but I don't think we're going to see it here. I think we're in for a good fight, but I'd like, I want to see these guys get paid very well, and right off into the sunset. But I think we're in for a great fight nonetheless. Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown, two of them we know what they're capable of. or
Yeah.
what they have been capable of. Are they still capable of that same violence that we're so used to seeing? Hopefully so, for our sake. But I'm going with the underdog on this. I'm going with Matt Brown. I think many people will be surprised with that. I
Yeah.
know that, I know that Brown is Matt Brown is a heavy underdog. Condit is a favorite, and most people's predictions are favoring Condit. But I'm going to go with Brown based on a number of things. Number one, I think he's just been a bit more. None of them have been too active, but Matt Brown
Yeah.
has been in there a bit more in the last few years. And I think that will play a part. And just on recently, Matt Brown has had glimpses of the old Matt Brown.
Yeah.
While Condit just hasn't looked like his old self, that title challenging him, that guy that we seen that was putting away guys that were putting on exciting fights. He hasn't been that same Carlos Condit. So I think Matt Brown takes this. I think he could finish him as well.
Yeah, I'm going to completely disagree with you on this one. I think before the Court McGee fight, I'd have 100% picked Matt Brown. And it's easy to look at Condit's record and see he's 1-1 and lost 5 before that. But you look at who he's lost to, and they're young, up-and-coming killers for the most part. You had Chiesa loss, you had Oliveira, Magny, when they were all on the up. You had Maya, who was maybe more of an older statesman. And then you're going back to the Robbie Lawler fight, which was the fight of the year of that year. A phenomenal fight. And I do believe that was kind of the start of the decline for Condit. That was an absolute war, and it took it out of him. But his last fight against Court McGee, I won't say it was the best version of Condit we've seen ever, but certainly the best version we've seen of him in 5 or 6 years. And you look at Matt Brown then with his loss to Beza. He'd win over Saunders and Diego Sanchez. But similar enough to Condit, he's on a massive kind of losing record in his last 10 fights. I'd give the edge to Condit.
I can completely see where you're coming from. Like, I'm not going to argue with it. I just feel that both guys, they're coming obviously to the very end of their career. They could retire now and be forever seen as, maybe not legends in this, perhaps legends in the sport. But I just think, do you know what? We probably need to know more. Probably need to know what the guys, at this stage of their career, how they're looking after themselves, what their training camp has been like. But I'm just going off their very recent form. And I know, yes, we've seen Matt Brown beat Ben Saunders, he beat Diego Sanchez, but he looked damn impressive in beating both. Yeah. I think that killer instinct is there. I think he's always looked very sharp over 3 rounds. His conditioning has never been a suspect, either as Condit's, let's be fair. But I just think that fight is in Matt Brown more than it is in Carlos Condit, and I think that will show. Condit didn't look as interested to be there as such in his last few fights. Well, Matt Brown is always in a fight, and I think that will be just a defining factor, that little bit of an edge that's needed.
Yeah, again, it is a tough one to call. If we look at notable wins for both, so Carlos Condit, notable wins, Rory McDonald, Nick Diaz, Dan Hardy, and a lot of notable losses. Notable wins for Matt Brown. The only 2 that I would argue are very notable wins are Stephen Thompson and Douglas Lima. You're going back to 2012 and 2007. I just think Matt Brown has always struggled against that big name guy. And I've looked at some common opponents there in that regard. You have Demian Maia, who subbed both of them. You have Johnny Hendricks, who decisioned both of them. You had Robbie Lawler, who decisioned both of them. And you had Dong Hyun Kim, who Carlos Condit got a KO victory against, and Matt Brown a decision loss to. But it is one that I just think Matt Brown struggles in that big fight, that very big fight.
Yes, but if he was fighting Condit from 2016, it's a big name fight. But he's fighting Condit in 2020. But look at, I feel bad. Sorry, what am I saying? 2021. Go away 2020. We had enough of you. Yes, but like, I know what you're saying. It sounds like I'm being a Carlos Condit hater when I'm totally the opposite. I love that. I love that guy. I think he's phenomenal. nothing would make me happier but to see him have a phenomenal performance and then kick onwards and upwards, get back into the a 2 or 3 fight win streak. But I'm gonna go with Brown on that, just based on those few points that I had.
Yeah, and I'll pick Conded. Moving on to the next fight, you have a massive fight here in the welterweight division. You have Santiago Ponzinibbio against Jiangliang Li, the Leech. I'm hugely excited for this fight. Ponzinibbio on a 7-fight win streak. The Leech, fair enough, he had a tough loss to Magny last, but that broke a 3-fight win streak. Both of these guys are killers in this division. And neither ranked, which is a shock as well. Both of these guys feel like they've been in there for a long time now. They must be sniffing around that top 15.
Yeah, but Ponzinibbio has been out for a very long time, and I think this is the biggest factor in this fight. How is this guy going to react? I've taken long absences from fights with injuries, and it's affected me different times. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative. It's going to be very important how he structures himself, how he comes out, because if he has ring rust, if he's a bit rabbit in the headlights moment, Lee could catch him early. I don't see it happening. I think Ponzinibbio will be more motivated than ever. This guy went from possibly contending for a title to now have been 2 years out of the sport.
Yeah.
So I think he'll be hungrier. I think that someone at that level that can get into title contention will have that mindset to keep that going when he was injured, when he was out. And I think that he'll show up. I think he'll get right back into the mix, and I think he will be ranked after this fight. I'm expecting a big performance, a big comeback as such, big career comeback from Ponzinibbio, and I think he'll finish Lee.
Yeah, I've very similar opinion again to you here. And you look at the two common opponents they have again. I know this is a thread now that normally I don't believe in MMA math, but the matchmaking on this card, for some reason, as opposed to others, they're all very similarly matched. They seem to be very close. Even if you move down the cards to the prelims, a lot of guys are similar records, similar UFC records. And the common opponents are very telling in this one, in that both guys have fought Magny and both guys have fought Nordine Taleb. In both of those cases, Jiangliang Li lost the decision, and Santiago Ponzinibbio has beaten both of those guys, Magny by KO and Taleb by decision. I just think that's a little bit telling of where they're at in their career.
That's why I think the matchup is so good. I think these guys, there is a step, there is a difference in level. I think Ponzinibbio is that level above, but Lee has looked impressive, and Ponzinibbio has been a long time out. It's the perfect test for Ponzinibbio, and it's the perfect fight for Lee if he can get past Ponzinibbio. So again, the UFC wins with this one. You're going to see Ponzinibbio back on after a long absence out, or they see a new emerging star in Lee. So it's a really, really good fight. But I think Ponzinibbio knocks Lee out. I think round 1 will be a lot of feeling out. Round 2, I think he'll start finding his stride. And I think round 2 or 3, he'll get the KO.
Yeah, I think Ponzinibbio as well. No, I would say if it's not a knockout in the first 2 to 3 minutes, I can see this one going the distance. But yes, I have Ponzinibbio as well. And moving on to the next fight, you have the Numensa and the KO King of 2020, Joaquin Buckley, fighting Alessio De Chirico of Italy. And this one, we kind of discussed this one on the podcast we have during the week. Joaquin Buckley, 2-fight win streak, 2 massive KOs, and he's only lost in 2020 to Kevin Holland, who's streaking. Coming up against a guy who's on a 3-fight skid, losses to Holland, Muradus, and Cummings, 3-5 overall in the UFC. Like we talk about the matchmaking on this card, this is the only, for me, complete mismatch on the card. And I think that the purpose of this is they want to test Buckley to see if he can KO anyone. De Chirico has never been finished, and I think that's the narrative here.
I think it's matchmaking to suit the promotion. I think they're wanting to see Joaquin Buckley's star rise further and further and further. They want to keep this guy active. He's been in there. He's been very active, despite 2020 being such a shit show. He got a lot of good fights in. Yeah. But he fought 1, 2, 3, 4 times in 2020.
3.
Again.
Yeah. Or was
4.
sorry? Yeah, he's contender series as well. Yeah.
So he lost to Kevin Holland, who was fighter of the year.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's looked damn impressive. KO the year he had, so I think he goes in and he smokes Alessio De Shakiro. I'd be surprised if he didn't finish him. I know what you're saying. He hasn't been finished yet, but Buckley, I think, will have huge confidence going into this.
Yeah.
From the performance that he's had of late, and I think that I think a knockout again will get him a big fight next, and he'll know that. So I think the chips are lining up right. The stars are lining right, should I say, for him to get a good performance and put in and get a good knockout.
Yeah, I'm the same here. I see Buckley taking the victory. My one big concern here is that he feels like he has to get the KO, and that he might kind of overcommit to a lot. But I just think that the power he has and the technique he has, I do see him finishing him. So another KO for Buckley here. The next one for me is one of the sleeper fights on the card. You have two undefeated fighters fighting a middleweight. Punahele Soriano versus Dusko Tadorovich. These guys are like this. If this fight goes to a decision, I know nothing about MMA. You have Soriano, 6 finishes out of his 7 fights. You have Tadorovich, 9 finishes out of his 10 fights. Both of their decisions, actually, funnily enough, came on the Contender Series. And normally you don't get signed off a decision off on the Contender Series, but both did. And they're both 1-0 in the UFC. This is going to be an absolute war. I cannot see this one going the distance.
I hope one of them goes out and pulls guard and it's 50-50 for 15 minutes just to prove you wrong.
I'm going to touch wood because I might just have jinxed this fight. Yeah.
No, what I think is I think it's a phenomenal fight, and I'd be surprised if this isn't fight of the night. I'd put my money on this being fight of the night. This is what I'm so excited about. 2021 is here, and we have a card like this where Max Holloway, Kattar could easily be fight of the night. Conded and Brown, you'd never know. Maybe this
steal the show.
Going at it. Yeah, Ponzinibbio and Lee, that has all the makings as well. But then you make your way down to Soriano and Tadorovich, and again, 2 guys that are undefeated, but 2 guys who have phenomenal striking and knockout power. Who are you picking? I know who I'm picking.
Do you have any coins there to flip for me? This is all I know about this fight is someone is going to sleep. Look, you're picking Tadorovich, so I'm going to lean on Soriano here.
No, I'm picking Soriano.
Oh, you're picking Soriano. I'll go the opposite, so I'll go Tadorovich just to make it interesting. But either or, someone's getting finished. That's all I know.
It's going to be who's the smarter fighter in this, because you've got 2 guys that are 2 undefeated guys. You know, a lot of people are hyped for this fight, including Dana White. So, which way do they fight? Do they come out trying to steal the show, or do they come out and try and keep their O? I just feel that Soriano has a little bit more power.
Yeah.
For a shorter opponent, he uses his reach very, very well. I can see him getting lower than Tadorovich and pinging him with that big straight left of his. He's good in southpaw, so I think that he will catch him. Now, Tadorovich boxing, he's more volume. He seems to be better, a more well-rounded mixed martial artist, but I think they're going to try and stand with this one. I think Soriano comes away with a TKO finish. Yeah.
Again, as I said, I'll go with Tadorovich just for argument's sake, but all I see is a finish here. Look, there's some other great fights on the card. You've Justin Taffa fighting on the card. You've Jacob Kilburn, Austin Lingo, an impressive one. You've Zawada and Maev. But we will move on just to 2 of the fights next week, the midweek card, because we won't get to touch them on next week's show. You have in the main event there, you have Michael Chiesa fighting Neil Magny. Another welterweight clash. Chiesa 3-fight win streak, and he looks phenomenal at welterweight. The fact that guy ever made featherweight, hear me. The fact that guy was fighting at lightweight is just shocking. Yeah. He looks like a big dude at 70. And again, you have Magny 3-fight win streak and 3 good wins against Leach, Lawler, Rocco Martin. This is a tough one to call.
Yeah. It's a very intriguing fight. The 5 rounds, I just can't keep my eyes off that, and we know that will suit Neil Magny. That guy is just a phenomenal gas tank. I'm not putting a single cent on this because for me it's too tight. I can see both guys edging a decision. I can see Magny getting a TKO or a KO win, or I can see Chiesa getting sub win.
Yeah.
Magny has struggled with grapplers in the past, and Chiesa is a good grappler. And he's, like you said, he's big for the weight. How this guy made 155 is mental, but here we are at 170, and I do think that he has all the potential in the world to sub pretty much anyone at 170, and one of them is including Magny. So, although I love Magny, his style, his I fight anybody, anytime, anywhere style. I love or attitude and his fight style in general. I'm going to pick Chiesa with this, and I'm going to pick it by either decision or sub. I'm on the fence with that one. Let's go sub. Let's go with sub for the crack. Like I said, I'm not putting a cent on this one.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've Chiesa. I'm not sure if, like you say, it'll be a sub or a decision. The fact that it's 5 round, I would imagine he will get him out of there in that space of time. Look, but when the fight goes longer, obviously Neil Magny will prefer that. And as big as Chiesa is at 70, Magny is one of the bigger guys, reach wise and everything. He will touch Chiesa. It's just a matter of Chiesa can get his hands on him and grapple. I do see Chiesa picking up another win here though. In the co-main event, you have Munir Lizaz versus Varley Alves. Lizaz on a 3-fight win streak. He's just after making his UFC debut in UFC Fight Island last year, and he's taken on a veteran, a 10+ fight veteran in Varley Alves. But I think this matchup kind of favors Lizaz in a sense. You have a guy who's on the way up against a guy who's kind of slowly starting to descend the other way. Alves had a tough loss to Randy Brown in his last one. He's 3-4 in his last 7. But you've Munir on a hot streak, 8 finishes in his 10 wins. I would just edge towards Lizaz here.
Yeah, I want to see more Lizaz. To be honest, there's this. He's not a rookie by any means. He's 10-1. That's a good solid record, but he's only had the one UFC fight. I want to see more of him, but I do think he will beat declining Alves. Again, it's who reacts better in this with this matchup. You know what I mean? Alves has been there time and again. He's 13-4. He's had 12 UFC fights at this stage. Is it 12?
Yeah.
Well, Lizaz had the one. That being said, he's on the up. He's probably that little bit hungrier. So I'm going to go with Lizaz, the hungrier, younger competitor in this one.
Perfect. So we are in all of our picks here. We're actually only split on 2 of them. We're split on the co-main event, the Conded Brown fight this weekend, and we're split on the toss-up, the Soriano versus Tadorovich one.
So we'll go back to the Conded. Go back to the Conded and Brown fight. I know I'm going to be watching that on Saturday night. And probably Conded will beat the shit out of Matt Brown. I'll go like, what was they thinking? But I'm just trying to be a bit controversial, Paul. Crack Matt Brown.
What we are going to do is we're going to keep score on these, and every week we're going to post up the scores from throughout the year. So it'll be interesting to see whether the pundit or the professional has a better picking style.
I just want to point out that this is the first I've heard of this. So, thank you.
As well as our bets of the week, we'll be keeping track of those as well, and you must give me your bet of the week. Okay.
With my bet of the week, I'm gonna stay clear of UFC the Chiesa and Magny card. There's just no clear cut for me. I'm looking forward to it. Don't get me wrong. I can't wait to see the main event. I'm looking forward to seeing the 2 fights we spoke about, and again, Lerone Murphy as well. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing him back in action. Great fighter from a great camp.
And you've the debut of Mason Jones as well, the Cage Warriors.
Absolutely, yes,
double champ.
Yes,
so
yeah,
and he has a tough out as well in his first fight. So good fight.
As you can expect them. Yeah, 100%. But I'm sticking to the Holloway and Kattar card. Yeah. Okay, let's go with it. Just to get a bit more value for my money, I'm going to pick Matt Brown.
Okay.
And I'm going to put a double on. Sorry, I'm going to put a triple. I'm going to put Matt Brown. I'm going to go Joaquin Buckley, and I'm going to pick Max Holloway.
All just to win.
Yes. I'm being crazy enough by picking Matt Brown here now. So give me a break.
The odds will still be good. We'll put the odds
Yes.
up on the screen. My bet of the week is I am picking Holloway to win by decision. So Holloway on points. I have Joaquin Buckley by KO. And I have the undefeated fight, the opener of the main card this Saturday night, not to go the distance. Doesn't matter who wins, it ain't going the distance. Judges not required. The odds
Do you know the odds on that yet?
I think the odds are 4-9, so it's like less than 1-2. But it's a nice little one to try in there because, like I say, I know nothing about MMA if that one goes to the judges.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard Soriano has been working as rubber guard and pulling guard a lot, so let's hope.
Yeah, then well, when my bet's gone if that's the case anyway, because that'd be a lame great job. But yes, we'll get back into it next week and we'll check in with our results. And of course, next week we have the big one. We have UFC 257, McGregor and Poirier. So we'll be excited to make picks on that. And with two fight cards this week, we've plenty to be doing and plenty to be watching. We might touch on a couple of the fights if they interest us, and we'll get our results up for next week as well. Which fight are you most looking forward to over the next 10 days?
Obviously, Conor and Poirier.
Yeah.
But let's put teammates aside. I'm looking forward to Holloway and Kattar. That's just a phenomenal fight. And like I said, the dynamic of the fight is fantastic. You've got Kattar, who you can see possibly getting the win and a star rising, and because he's everything you want to see. He's a knockout artist. He's an exciting fighter. But then you've got Holloway, who's such a fan favorite, and people are bashing him when he's done nothing wrong. The guy lost to Poirier and he lost to the champ Volkanovski, who I think again he won. So whoever wins, we're going to win as fans as such. I'm excited as hell for that one. But yeah, we're looking. 2021 is here. Let's hope to see a lot of good cards from UFC, from Bellator, and let's get some good wins, get good predictions down too.
Definitely. For me, obviously, like you said, the Holloway Kattar one, I have that picked for an early contender for fight of the year if it goes the way I see it going. I think the sleeper as well is Chandler versus Hooker, just to see how Chandler competes. I think he's a very tough matchup for Hooker, and I'd like to see if Chandler does get the victory, where that puts him in the lightweight division and what they do next with him. Otherwise, if Hooker wins that, I don't know what it does for him in the sense that Chandler never had a number next to his name. So he might have to get another one before there's a shot.
Yeah, he doesn't get I cannot see him getting either men getting a title shot based off a win against each other, but it's a perfect fight for the next one. You know what I mean? I think that Chandler has massive potential. He's a phenomenal athlete, but I think he's been given such a tough fight. Hooker is excellent. Yeah. And he's so long for that weight class as well. There would have been a lot easier fights to give him, but thank God they didn't. We have a great fight in our hands with both these guys going at it. And I like both of them. I like their styles, so it's going to be a very interesting fight.
Perfect. And is there anything you want to let us know before you go about fights coming up for yourself?
Niente. I am in lockdown training my arse off, but look, I'm staying busy and I'm staying ready.
The Forge is getting beaten up, so.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know how much hours I put into that place already, but it's nuts already. I'm going out after this again. But I'm staying ready for whatever. So I'm looking forward to it. And I hope Brett Johns is staying ready too.
Very good. Very good. Listen, thanks again for joining us, Brian. And we will speak to you all again next week, where we will look ahead to Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Thank you.